What's up, guys? This is the moment you have all been waiting for. Today I am here to present to you my top 25 roller coasters I have ridden at the moment, 2018 edition. So today is National Roller Coaster Day, so I am going to be doing one of these kind of lists, my top 25s, every National Roller Coaster Day. I'm going to start making that a tradition. And I am really excited to present to you my top 25 roller coasters, because this list has definitely changed. There are some roller coasters on here that have definitely are not my top 25 anymore, and there are some coasters that definitely nagged its spot. So, without further ado, let's get started. Coming in at number 25, let's go to Six Flags Over Georgia for Georgia's Scorcher. This is a B&M stand-up coaster, one of 3 that I have ridden. The other one being Vortex and Apocalypse, which is now closing. That should be turned into a floorless coaster, I'm assuming. Anyhow, Georgia Scorcher, of the 3 B&M stand-ups I've ridden, this is definitely my favorite one. I really like this ride because it is intense. It is an intense ride. You get minimal head banging. It is just, the layout is very strong for a stand-up coaster, and I'm just a big fan of this ride. And I feel like the name really goes great with this coaster. Your feet really feel like they're on fire. It's just a great ride. Coming in at number 24 is Superman Ultimate Flight at the same park, Six Flags Over Georgia. This coaster definitely disappointed me a little bit when I rode it, but however, I still really enjoy this ride. It is a lot of fun. It is more graceful compared to Manta. Manta is a much more intense ride. This is a little more graceful and not as intense. Because, really the only intense moment on this ride is that pretzel loop, which is a really fun element. But the rest of it's just kind of mediocre, so that's why I have this at number 24. But it is fun, though. Definitely recommend riding it. Coming at number 23 is Batman the Ride. Some people will argue which one is better between Superman and Batman. However, I prefer Batman clones over Superman clones because these rides are just so compact and intense. I really enjoy this ride a lot. And it makes me look forward to riding more Batman clones in the future and some of the other Six Flags parks. But this ride was fun. I say this ride is definitely a back row ride because you really get the G-forces on this roller coaster. And yeah, I recommend riding Batman the Ride. It is a lot of fun. Coming at number 2 is going to be a very unpopular opinion. This is Tempesto at Busch Gardens Williamsburg. Now, some people really don't like this ride at all. They say the restraints suck, and I will admit the restraints aren't the best because of the comfort collars. I'd rather just have a lap bar. But this ride doesn't suck by any means. I actually really like this ride. And some people do like this, but I really like this ride, guys. I'm sorry, but I enjoy this. I really think it is an intense ride. It is, when I rode it, it was ultra smooth. And also just that inversion on the top is just amazing. You get some good hang time on that as well. And yeah, definitely give Tempesto a shot when you're at Busch Gardens Williamsburg. Coming in number 21 spot is Great Bear at Hershey Park. This is another amazing B&M invert, and the 7th one I've ridden, including Dragon Challenge, which is no longer operating. If Dragon Challenge were still operating, it would probably be on the list, but because it's not operating, I'm not going to include that. But anyhow, of the B&M inverts, this is definitely more than your average invert, in my opinion. I really love this coaster. It is fantastic. One of my favorite things about this ride is how it has a helix before the drop. I feel like that's just really, I understand, I know some people might not like that kind of thing, but I feel like it gives Great Bear uniqueness. And the layout is very unique as well. And I really enjoy the inversions. In that little section where it goes underneath Super Duper Looper, I really enjoyed that as well. And I really enjoyed some of the other versions, like the Loop, the Immelman, the Zero G Roll, and that Corkscrew was really cool too. And I say this is a strong invert for sure. It might not be the most intense invert I've ridden, but it's definitely a fun ride for sure. Now we are in the top 20. Coming at number 20 is the Incredible Hulk Coaster at Universal's Islands of Adventure. This ride is just fantastic. First off, that first launch is so memorable and just incredible. I love how it launches out of that tunnel straight into a 0G roll. That's one of the best things. And also, like, even the inversions are fun as well. Like, some of them, I will admit, they do have a rattle. Like that Cobra Roll is a little on the rough side. But I mean, this is a very smooth coaster. Depends on what day you're at. Some days it kind of runs sluggish and not as good, but there are some days where it just hauls butt and it's just awesome. I will admit the second half definitely is nowhere near as good as the first half. The first half is fantastic. Second half is good as well, but it definitely loses all of its momentum during the second half. I'll have to admit on that. But that first half is so killer. It is just so good. And the onboard audio really adds to this ride. So another reason to ride the Incredible Hulk. And plus, a night ride on this thing, oh boy. That thing at night is unbelievable. So yeah, definitely ride the Incredible Hulk when you're on this adventure. Definitely the best roller coaster at Universal Orlando for sure. Coming in number 19 is 2 roller coasters. Lightning Racer at Hershey Park. My personal favorite GCI I've ridden. This thing is so fantastic. The layouts itself aren't the strongest, but this ride is so much fun. The fun factor is off the charts for me with this one. I just love how it races each other, duels each other, interacts with each other. It is fantastic. I mean, yes, I said the layouts aren't the strongest, but I mean the layouts themselves are still good. And it's also smooth. And it's also kind of an intense ride as well. And you really feel like you're flying on this thing. It is a lot of fun. Yes, both times I rode it, Thunder always won. I rode once on each side. And yes, when I rode Thunder, our side won. So yeah, this is just such a fantastic coaster. And of the coasters at Hershey Park, from when I was there, this one had by far the shortest line. So I'd say this is a very re-rideable roller coaster. Big fan of Lightning Racer. Coming in at number 18, we have Manta at SeaWorld Orlando. This is my personal favorite flying coaster. This thing is fan-freaking-tastic. First off, it is a very beautiful roller coaster. It is visually appealing to me. Like, you can literally see this coaster when you're at the parking lot. I like how it greets guests as it goes through, like, that little water section. I really like that. But my favorite part about Manta is that pretzel loop. That thing is insane. If you're in the back row, you'll definitely gray out. Maybe black out. I am that serious. That thing is crazy insane. Like, you need to ride for yourself to see for yourself. It is so good. And the inversions are just amazing as well. Some days it runs better than others, but like, this ride is fantastic, and it's just such a beautiful ride. Like I said earlier, I love how it interacts with the waterfalls and the water and a bunch of like trees and stuff. It is amazing. And it's also the queue line is really beautiful as well. I like how you see all these stingrays inside. And yeah, it's just such a cool experience, and I definitely recommend it when you're at SeaWorld Orlando. It might be the weakest B&M in the park, but it's still a lot of fun. Coming in number 17 is Griffin at Busch Gardens Williamsburg, one of the 2 B&M dive coasters I've ridden. I'd say of the 2 B&M dive coasters I've ridden, this is definitely the weaker one. And this coaster is a lot of fun. I love that first drop, probably the best drop of any coaster I've ridden. And then I'll also love the 2 Immelmans, and the splashdown is fun. But I mean, these rides are kind of one-trick ponies. They're not my favorite kind of roller coasters. So yeah, I will admit it is very smooth. It is a very smooth ride. But it is also kind of an intense ride as well. But not as good as number 16. Number 16 is the next dive coaster I've ridden, Sheikra at Busch Gardens Tampa, which in my opinion is definitely the better of the dive coasters I've ridden. What makes Sheikra just a lot better than Griffin, I mean, Sheikra is definitely not as smooth as Griffin, I'll give it that. But what makes Sheikra just 10 times better is that it has that tunnel dive, and also that splashdown is really fantastic. The drop is also just as good on Griffin, or on this as opposed to Griffin. I like the drop just as much. It's not as smooth, it gives you a little bit of a rattle, but it is so much fun. I also do have to admit, it is a bit more intense than Griffin, which is kind of crazy. So yeah, definitely give Sheikra a try at Busch Gardens. We are now at the top 15. This is where it gets really good. Number 15 is Fahrenheit at Hershey Park. Oh boy, this coaster was fantastic. First off, that Beyond Vertical drop was really fun. This was the second Beyond Vertical drop I experienced, first being Daredevil Dive at Six Flags Over Georgia, which does not make this list. But also, the inversions themselves are amazing. Like Theme Park Crazy said, it really is a buffet of amazing inversions, making you want seconds. It really is like that. It's true. This coaster is fantastic, and I wanted to ride it again, but the line was just a little on the long side, and we were running out of time. But anyhow, this coaster was just a lot of fun. My favorite part about this ride might have to be the ending. The ending kind of made me think of Maverick a little bit, even though I have not ridden Maverick yet. My favorite inversion on this ride is probably those two high-speed corkscrews. Those were amazing. The Norwegian loop was also really fun, so was that Cobra roll. This coaster is just so much fun, and I really like this coaster. Coming at number 14 is Mind Blower at Fun Spot in Kissimmee. My personal favorite wooden coaster. This thing is so much fun. It is a little on the rough side, I have to admit, but this layout is so compact and just out of control, and that inversion is so much fun, and that drop is just as fun as well. And you get some fantastic ejector air on the thing. And also, it is a very intense wooden coaster. And you do really feel like you're going much faster than you actually are on this roller coaster. And this coaster is not perfect. Like I said earlier, it is kind of rough, and the name is so stupid. Mind Blower. Not Mind Blower, because it does blow your mind. Why call it Mind Blower, not Mind Blower? What? Come on, Fun Spot. You really could have chosen a better name. But nonetheless, this coaster is so much fun, and I definitely recommend it when you're at Fun Spot in Kissimmee. Coming in number 13, some people like this, some people don't. This is Alpengeist at Busch Gardens Williamsburg. This invert is just fantastic. Oh my gosh, I love Alpengeist. I came into this ride with very low expectations, but when I rode it, I was so surprised by this coaster. It's so much fun. First off, the Cobra roll, a lot of people say that Cobra roll is awful and just nasty. I have to admit, though, that's probably the best part of the ride. The whip was just insane, and it was so good. One of the best Cobra rolls in my opinion. And I like how it uses a train to its advantage, and that ending with the snow was really cool as well. And I didn't get any headbanging at all on this coaster. It was a smooth ride. It wasn't perfectly smooth, it had a little bit of a rattle, but it was smooth. And I just love this coaster. It was also pretty intense as well. So, big fan of Alpengeist. Coming in number 12 is Apollo's Chariot at Busch Gardens Williamsburg. Same park Alpengeist is. But anyhow, this coaster, this might be the weakest B&M Hyper in my opinion, but it is so much fun. I love me some Apollo's Chariot. The airtime is a little sluggish towards the beginning, but the airtime really picks up during that second half, and the second half is just so good. Also, I really am a big fan of that first drop. That first drop is so memorable. Sorry about that. Yeah, the first drop on Apollo's Chariot is so memorable. It is fantastic. I like how it drops you 210 feet into a subterranean area. That's what I'm really a sucker for. It is just, if it weren't for the terrain, this ride wouldn't be as good. But this coaster, I just love how it picks up towards the second half. And when I first rode this coaster, it really just surprised me. Now, fun fact, when I first rode this coaster, it actually became my number one, believe it or not. But that's when I was more GP, I was more of a GP back then than I am now. Now I'm more of an enthusiast. You guys can say that. But anyhow, this coaster is a lot of fun, and I definitely recommend checking it out. Definitely the best one at Busch Gardens Williamsburg, that's for sure. And coming in at number 11 will be another unpopular opinion. I'm sorry, guys. I put Kraken Unleashed at number 11. Some people do not like this coaster. They say it is very rough and not fun at all. However, I will admit, though, it is probably one of the roughest B&Ms in my opinion. But I love this coaster, and I always have. This thing is fantastic. I definitely think it is a strong, floorless coaster. And it's right now the only floorless coaster I have ridden. It does have a VR experience to it as well. Now the VR experience is currently down as of August 2018, and there's rumors actually popping around that the VR might not come back. So you may not get to see VR on this coaster anymore. But anyhow, the coaster itself is still fantastic. I love all the inversions, especially that 0G roll. And also the corkscrews. The corkscrew's fun. The cove roll is also good, and that vertical loop is so gargantuan. And I love how it uses like some subterranean dives and stuff. And the tunnel is so much fun. This is one of the best roller coasters I've ridden. Okay, guys, we are now at the top 10. This is really where we're getting to the strong roller coasters. These next 10 are just unbelievably awesome. This is it, guys. Who is ready for my top 10? Here we go. Starting off, the top 10 is Afterburn at Carowinds. Holy moly, this coaster is so fantastic. In my opinion, this is the most intense B&M invert I have ridden so far. This thing is crazy. It might not look like it, but it is crazy. It is a little bit of a short ride, I'll have to admit. It is not a very long ride at all. But this inverted coaster really just kicks so much butt all the way. And I will admit, definitely get one moment headbang during that final corkscrew, but the reason why you get headbang is because you go through it so fast, because the pacing is just so good. And it is one insane ride if you're in the back. You will feel like blacking out for sure. It is so good. I love this coaster. Okay, moving on, number 9, we have Intimidator at Carowinds, which is the same park. And this coaster is the king of floater air in my opinion. It might not be very intense, but it's really just meant for you to feel like you're floating out of your seat, and it achieves that. I love the airtime on this thing. This thing has some fantastic floater air. Some people do criticize this roller coaster for its trims, and I'll have to admit, the trims, I mean, they didn't really suck. I didn't really feel the trims on this coaster, but they are there. And it probably would be better if they weren't there. But nonetheless, this coaster is still fantastic. And I really like this coaster. Coming in at number 8 is a bit of an odd one. Superman Ride of Steel at Six Flags America. In my opinion, this is one of the most underrated roller coasters I've ridden. Not many people talk about this coaster. This thing was fantastic. Now the layout is a bit funky, I have to admit. Because it has one moment that's just plain straight section where you're going at high speeds. Which is nice, but I mean, it would be nice to have some element. Like more elements on this coaster. But I mean, the elements that it has are fantastic. Like the airtime is fantastic. The helixes are surprisingly intense, and I actually grayed out on this coaster. Call me crazy. The helixes are kind of intense, but the airtime is fantastic. It's ejector air, so you'll feel like you're getting ejected out of your seat. I got so much ejector air on this thing, it was so good. So yeah, I love this coaster. Definitely the best one at Six Flags America, by far. Coming in number 7 is Stormrunner at Hershey Park. This coaster is short, but sweet. Literally, I was so blown away by Stormrunner. I did not think this coaster would be as good as it actually is. First off, that launch is so intense. It will catch you by surprise. My personal favorite launch on a roller coaster. I'm sorry, Rock and Roller Coaster, you no longer have the best launch. This beats it. But that launch is so fantastic. The acceleration is insane, and also the top hat is a lot of fun, and the inversions are amazing. Let's talk about that flying snake roll. Oh my goodness, that thing is so good. It feels like it's going forever, and is just unbelievable. I love this coaster so much. And I wish it were a longer ride. Like, oh, if it were a longer ride, dare I say it could possibly be the best ride at Hershey Park. But I just love this coaster. I wish I could have ridden it again. I wish I could have ridden it in the front too. I rode it in the second row. But this coaster was just incredible. Like, I don't know how to say it. Like, this coaster is so incredible. Okay, barely making the top 5 is Goliath at Six Flags over Georgia. This roller coaster was so much fun. In my opinion, the most intense B&M Hyper. And it's actually pretty intense, believe it or not. Like, there's like this one helix in it. I actually grayed out a little on it. And B&M Hypers aren't meant to be that intense, but this is an intense roller coaster. It's really just a helix of death that just really does it for me. It is so good. But let's get back to like right itself. Like the airtime is very strong on this coaster. You get some fantastic flow jactor airtime, and I love how it goes out out of the park, and it is just amazing. And also, it does have a little bit of a rattle, but it is so much fun. Definitely one of the best hypers ever created. Okay, guys, we have made it to the top 5. These next 5 coasters, oh my gosh, these next 5 are so good. I would give each of these next 5 roller coasters perfect 10s. They are so good in each way, and you would probably be surprised in some of the placements I have on here. These next 5 are just unbelievable. They're so good. Let's start up our top 5. Here we go. Coming at number 5, we have Montu at Busch Gardens, Tampa. My favorite B&M invert. Definitely my favorite B&M invert. This thing is incredible. Now, there was a point in time where I preferred Afterburn over this. But Montu this year really grew on me. I didn't get to go to Busch Gardens as much this year, but I mean, that one time I went in January, this roller coaster grew on me so much. I can call it the best B&M invert. It is so good. It is very intense. It might not be as intense as Afterburn, but what this ride really does for me is how long it is. This coaster is so long, and it just feels like it never ends. It is incredible. And the inversions themselves are just so much fun. Like, I love how much whip you get on each inversion. The only thing I will say that's a bit of a shame is that the bat wing is trimmed, but when I went in January, there was no trims, and it was incredible. So intense. I love all the trenches this thing has as well. It really gives you a great feeling as you're going out of the trenches. And just, yeah, I love this coaster. Plus, it is insanely smooth for its age. It's been running over 20 years, still near glossy smooth. I'm that serious. It is so good. And coming in at number 4 is a coaster at the same park, Kumba. Holy moly. Words can't describe on how incredible this roller coaster is. If you've known me for a long time, you know I'm a Kumba fanboy. This thing is so good. First off, I love every single element on this coaster. Every single element. Like, that 0G roll. Like, that thing is so insane. It feels like it's going to tear your arms apart. It is so good. And when is a Cobra roll smooth? That Cobra roll is actually so smooth. And my favorite Cobra roll by a long shot. And the interlocking corkscrews are just really killer as well. And I love the vertical loop that wraps around the lift hill too. That's so iconic and beautiful. And that dive loop is really good too. And the rest of the elements as well are amazing, including that tunnel into that helix, which is so intense. This thing is so good. And not to mention, like I said earlier, this thing is so intense. In my opinion, the most intense B&M by far. It is so good. Oh man, I wish there were more roller coasters like this. I am a Kumba fanboy by a long shot. Best roller coaster at Busch Gardens, Tampa. That's for sure. Okay, now we are in the top 3. And these next 3 roller coasters, oh boy, they should be proud of themselves for being my top 3. I love these next 3. They're all 3 are special to me. In different ways though. Coming in at number 3 is Mako at SeaWorld Orlando. My favorite B&M hyper, in my opinion. Now this coaster, I'll admit for myself, it's not a very intense ride at all. But the fun factor is off the charts for me on this one. This thing is so much fun. One of the most fun roller coasters in my opinion. Every time I've ridden Mako, my mind's just been blown. This thing is so good. The airtime is so strong on this coaster. It is insanely smooth. Smoother than butter. Like, man, this is the definition of a smooth coaster. And I love how part of the ride is over water. And just this in the first drop is so good. This coaster is just so good in general. I love it. My favorite B&M Hyper, that's for sure. And I love the plaza and soundtrack for this roller coaster. It is so good. I can literally ride this coaster all day if I wanted to. Coming in at number 2 is my 100th roller coaster, Skyrush at Hershey Park. Now, there's two types of people out there. Those people that really do not like this coaster at all because of the restraints, and there's those people who love it so much. I'm in that second category. I love Skyrush so much. Right after I got off this coaster, I fell in love with this thing so much. It is so good. First off, I don't think I've experienced airtime this violent in my life. It is crazy. And this thing is so intense. In my opinion, the most intense coaster. I almost blacked out at the bottom of the first drop. And I am serious. And I know the restraints weren't the best, I have to admit to myself. They weren't my favorite. It kind of hurt your thighs a little. But the airtime, that's just insane. And the ridiculous intensity really made it up. And like, I'm serious, it is unbelievably good. Definitely by far one of my favorite coasters of all time, and definitely my favorite roller coaster at Hershey Park. Alright guys, we are now at the number 1 roller coaster, and this shouldn't come as a surprise to anyone who's been watching this channel for a long time. It's Fury 325 at Carowinds in Charlotte, North Carolina. Oh man, I'm gonna start off here. This roller coaster has been one of the most anticipated roller coasters I have ever ridden. I think I anticipated this roller coaster more than any roller coaster I ever rode. My expectations for this thing were insanely high, and it still exceeded all my expectations. First off, this coaster has everything you could want. It has an incredible first drop. It has airtime, and it's so freakishly tall. It has speed, it has so many crazy bank turns, and it dives under a pedestrian bridge, and it's a speed monster. 95 miles per hour, and it feels like it never loses speed and momentum. When I first rode this coaster, I was so happy that I rode it. Like, I was almost in tears when I got off of it. Like, I'm like, oh my gosh, did I really just ride that? It was so good. Definitely one of my favorite coasters ever, or I should say probably my favorite coaster ever, because I do have it at number 1 after all. And I definitely think it is my favorite roller coaster of all time. Now, with that being said, a lot of enthusiasts have gotten to ride this coaster now, and a lot of people are calling it overrated and not as good as they thought it was back then. And I'll have to admit, I think this list could easily change, and Fury might no longer be my number 1. Maybe one day, I'll have to see, because there's a lot of roller coasters out there that I could see being number 1. Like, look at Steel Vengeance at Steer Point. That thing looks incredible. Same with Intimidator 305 King's Dominion, and that thing I've heard is crazy. And so many other great roller coasters. But as of August of 2018, this is my top 25. So thank you guys so much for watching. And like I said earlier, happy National Roller Coaster Day. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video a lot. Don't forget to like, comment down below. What are your favorite roller coasters? Have you ridden any of these coasters? Do you think they're not as good, or do you think like they're just as good as I think it is, or better? Like, comment down all your thoughts below the video. Also, don't forget to subscribe for more videos in the future. Also, don't forget to check out social media link, which will be in the description below. See you guys next time. Have a theme-tacular day.